This is Ken Smith reminding you it happened today, March 23rd. March 23rd has happened thousands of times in the past. March 23rd, 1775, today, Patrick Henry gave the speech, "Give me liberty or give me death." March 23rd, 1933. It was called the Enabling Act in Germany. The government granted Adolf Hitler total dictatorial powers. March 23rd, 1903. The Wright brothers first file a patent for a flying machine. It would take 3 years before that patent would be granted. It was 1922 when the first airplane landed at the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. March 23rd, 1929, the first telephone was installed in the White House. March 23rd, 1945, the Swallow Sidecar Company agrees to change its name to Jaguar. Today, March 23rd, 1994, Wayne Gretzky set the National Hockey League record with 802 goals. Not much has changed. It was on this day, March 23rd, 2013, when the U.S. Senate finally approved its first budget in 4 years by a margin of 50 to 49. Well, that was March 23rd in the past, but this is March 23rd, and this is what happened today. In the midst of the virus and the fear and anxiety that's been created and we're living with, Michael Levitt, according to the Los Angeles Times, a Nobel laureate, a Stanford biophysicist, began analyzing the number of COVID-19 cases worldwide. He started in January and correctly calculated that China would get through the worst of the virus outbreak long before the health experts had predicted. Now he foresees a similar outcome in the United States and the rest of the world. He says while many are warning of months, years of massive social disruption and millions of deaths, Levitt says the data simply don't support such dire scenario, especially in areas where reasonable social distancing is in place. What we need is to control the panic, the anxiety, the fear. Levitt noticed in China, January 31st, that the country had 46 new deaths due to the virus, compared to 42 deaths the day before. This meant that the virus, though doubling every day, reached on January 31st, a day when it did not double. Instead, on the day before, there were 46 new deaths. On the 31st, only 42. Although the number of daily deaths had increased, it was the rate of the increase that began to ease off. Levitt wrote, "This suggests that the rate of increase in number of deaths will slow down even more over the next week." And he predicted the number of deaths would be decreasing every day. 3 weeks later, Levitt told the China Daily News that the virus rate of growth had peaked. He predicted that the total number of confirmed virus cases in China would end up to be about 80,000, with about 3,250 deaths. This forecast turned out to be remarkably accurate. On March 16th, China had counted a total of 80,298 cases and 3,245 deaths in a nation of nearly 1.5 billion people, where roughly every year about 10 million people will die. The number of newly diagnosed patients had dropped to around 25 a day, with no cases of community spread since Wednesday. Levitt, who received the 2013 Nobel Prize in Chemistry, has analyzed 78 countries with more than 50 reported cases of the virus, and he sees signs of recovery. Why? Because he's not looking at cumulative cases, but the number of new cases every day. The trajectory of deaths backs up Levitt's findings. So does data from the Diamond Princess, the cruise ship returning just several weeks ago from China that was prevented from entering California. On board that ship were 3,711 people. The total number who would become infected with the virus was just 712, of whom 8 died. This helps Levitt to estimate the future and the life of the virus, which appears to be shorter than anyone realized. Levitt also encourages, of course, social distancing, of washing hands and so forth. But he also blames the media for causing unnecessary panic by focusing relentlessly on the increase of the total numbers of cases of the virus around the world and spotlighting celebrities. In the end, Levitt says this virus has a lifespan, much shorter and predictably so than the assumption that it will just double every day. He says this is not the end of the world, and this virus does have an end. It was under Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the surprising overnight attack on Pearl Harbor, that he realized the nation was plunged in a great disaster. It would take years for it to recover. But in the end, he understood that there is a greater concern when he said the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Jesus had it right centuries before when he said, "Do not be anxious or afraid." This is Ken Smith, reminding you it happened today, March 23rd.